Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our special council meeting for today, Tuesday, June the 27th, 2023. And before I get started, I'll just mention that last night I had the opportunity to attend the Grafton Public School award ceremony for the grade 8 graduations. And I also had the pleasure of presenting an award for volunteerism, and that went to Justin Melbourne, who just happens to be the son of our deputy clerk, Yolanda. And it was very nice to see that and be able to do that. So well done, Yolanda. So I'll call the meeting to order at 9:35. And we'll start off with the territorial land acknowledgement. Before our meeting gets underway, I would like to formally recognize the traditional keepers of this land, and specifically our neighbors of the Alderville First Nation, with a formal territorial acknowledgement. We respectively acknowledge the township of Allen-McCullum is located on the Mississaugan-Ashanindic territory and is the traditional territory of the Mississaugan-Ashanindic. The township of Allen-McCullum respectively acknowledges that the Mississaugan Nation are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and the integrity for generations to come. Moving on to item 3, disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. Seeing none, we'll record that. Approval of the agenda as circulated. Be it resolved, the agenda for the special council session of Tuesday, June the 27th, 2023 be approved as circulated. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. And we have start off with a report from Pat Kemp, acting CAO clerk, dated June the 27th, 2023, regarding the Haldeman Memorial Arena. Go ahead, Pat.
With the assistance of Matt, Jennifer, and Brian, we were able to pull together some previous documents that had been distributed. And just for some information, some background for council. So the arena was built in 1950, and the artificial ice was installed in 1970. In 1975, an ice pad enclosure was constructed. 1986, a south addition, 1997, a north addition, and in 2004, a meeting room, canteen, and 2 dressing rooms. The gross floor area is 22,892 square feet, and the artificial ice surface is 70 by 170. So there were a number of studies done. One was from the facility life cycle assessment that was done by AECOM, and it estimated what the cost would be over 1 year, 5 year, 10, 15, and 20. So the total of that estimate, and that one was done in 2009, was $2,913,500. There also was a study done in 2016, and that was done by CCI Group, and it was to prepare a building condition assessment. And the total cost of that one was $5,221,000. In February of 2020, Chris Kerwin, our then Parks and Recreation Manager, prepared a report on the leak in the brine system. The recommendation was to install Rink Seal Pro at a cost of $10,000. In his report, he indicated that this had been the 7th leak that had been known since it was repaired in 2012. The Parks and Recreation Manager advised from 2016 to 2019, the township had spent over $470,000 in capital projects at the facility. And that included refrigeration condenser, refrigeration chiller, ice surfacer, deconsensant humidifier, ice surface lighting, exterior building lighting, parking lot lighting, front sidewalk and retaining wall, toilets, urinals, sinks, and faucets, arena board covers, and arena glass, arena edger, and security system. He estimated the cost to replace the floor at the same size would be approximately $1 million. And that would include the removal of the existing concrete floor, the slab grade, excuse me, new brine piping and headers, new concrete poured, and installation of new boards, glass, and safety netting. In May 2020, Carol James, the manager of financial services treasurer, prepared a report that analyzed the previous reports. In her report, she indicated that what needed to be done in 5 years and what must be done in 5 years. So the total of that was $1,445,000. And the cost per year was $289,100. At the time she reviewed her report, she said there was 489 participants utilizing the arena. And I don't know if Jen has any more current numbers on that. And of the user group, 65.85% were all McCalderman residents. So now we're at a crossroads where council needs to, first of all, decide about the brine leak. As staff, we feel that it's important that we do take care of that now so that we can utilize the 2023-24 winter season and then come up with a plan with what council wants to do in the future for the arena. So don't know if Jennifer or Matt have anything else to add.
Jennifer?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Logo. I'll just add a couple things, I guess. And when speaking with participant numbers, I'd say we're doing a better job now of keeping track of how many users are using the facilities all around, all facilities, including the arena. So even if you just look at the reports, the update reports, monthly ones that I do, you can see even just for the programming. So that's like the public skating, the stick and puck, and the shinny. Over a 1 month period, we have anywhere from, like, I'd say approximately probably 400 per month using that. So February was 386, for example. It varies a bit month to month. As well as our prime time percentage usage. So that's our weekday prime time, Monday through Friday. So anytime after 4 p.m. between 11 p.m. The average usage over the ice season has been like, well, 73 to 87%. It varies month to month based on how many days are available. So just wanted to throw a couple of those numbers out, as well as just some interest that we've already had for the 2023-2024 ice season with leagues. So we have 4 leagues already looking for extra ice than they currently have booked with us. So the West Northumberland Girls Hockey Association currently books an hour and a half per week with us, and they're looking for an extra 4 to 5 hours per week. Northumberland Minor Hockey is looking for an extra 3 hours per week, and they currently have 3 hours per week with us. And the mayor may bring this up later, but the Broom Ball League is just very interested in and wanted to express their concerns that they've been hearing, and wanted to reiterate how important this facility is to their league for Broom Ball, as well as he is the league representative for the Adult Ball Hockey League. So just wanted to say that as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Jennifer? I have one, Jennifer. I didn't quite catch you when you were talking about the Monday till Friday. I believe you said there was, did you quote a number of people that are using that on a weekly basis?
Just the percentage of hours that are booked.
Okay.
So prime time weekday hours.
Okay.
That are booked. So the percentage of usage. So it varies between 73% of all hours booked to 87% of all hours booked month to month.
Okay. And if you don't count original or individuals in that group in that 73 to 87, do you?
We don't
But-
capture, sorry, through you, Mayor Logal, we don't capture league user numbers, and Matt might be able to have a better idea of how many people come through the door. We only capture our programs users. So those again are the public skating, the adult stick and puck, or the child stick and puck, the adult shinny, those types of programs that we do. We capture those user numbers, but not how many are in a league or how many come with a private rental.
Okay, thank you. You have a comment, Matt?
Yes, through you, Mayor Logal. Just to add on some of what Jen had said, there is another broomball league that's interested in relocating to Sunday nights at the arena. They want 2 to 3 hours a week. They want to move from their current location to ours, just because of the size of the ice surface that we have, better fits their needs. As they are older, they're the league's 30 plus age range, and they started talking to me last year about interest into coming. And then as for numbers, if you just averaged it out for, per league, it's usually about anywhere from 15 to 18 players per team. Minor hockey probably has about 150, I believe, registered, and then the men's leagues, the one would be about 85 to 90 participants on the Tuesday night. The Wednesday old timers would be roughly 60 participants, and broomball is about 85 to 90 participants for our adult leagues that we have. The Tuesday night ladies, they have 6 teams. Each team has 15 as well, so 60, about 80, 90 there as well. So there is a lot of users that have been going through the arena.
If I can, Matt, you mentioned Sunday night broomball. I believe that's what you said. Is that hours that are already being used, or is that open ice hours?
That would be open ice hours.
Okay, so that's, we're not
So
gonna
it-
lose business.
No, we're not
because of that.
losing anything. We're gaining more.
Okay, and the Jennifer mentioned about, I think a total of about 7 to 8 hours that she's already got.
Yeah, that would
booked.
be in addition to.
That's in addition
Yeah.
as well. So you're talking probably 10 or 11 hours that you, if we include that broom ball.
Yes, and in through you, Mayor Logal, in discussion with Jen when I first got hired here, we've been working on it. First year, we still had the trail end of COVID. But I reached out to Jen. We're gonna discuss with because Saturdays, for some reason, at my old job, it was the same way. Saturdays were never rented out. They were always held on in case somebody wanted to rent a tournament. So in speaking with Jen, I had discussed that we go to our user groups now, get their list of their tournament dates, block book them for them, and then we can rent out the Saturdays more, whether it's for another local minor hockey group or whether it's pickup hockey or birthday parties. Then we can open up Saturdays for more revenue. So that's something that we were looking at too at the end of last season.
I'm kind of asking all the questions, but everybody else is willing to do that. If they want to, please go ahead. But my final question, and it's probably through the both of you. So that 8 to 10 hours per week, will that be a 10% increase or a 5% increase, or you have a feel for that?
Jen might know that one.
For you, Mayor Logal, I don't have that percentage increase of what that would look like compared to like last year's ice season. I think the point I was trying to make with just everything that we were bringing up, that you know, just wanted to reiterate that there is interest in ice at the Haldeman Memorial Arena, and that a lot of leagues start scheduling or have their schedule done by July. So we do have a lot of people reaching out to us. And therefore, I think it's important to make a decision sooner than later on the ice season for the 2023-2024 season.
Thank you, Jennifer. Any question? Greg?
Through you, your worship, to Jen or Matt, I have a couple of questions here. I'll try and start in order. So, Jen, when does our ice season start? Is it a normal 28-week season like most rinks, or?
Matt might be able to better answer that. Our ice opens the day after Thanksgiving Monday, so the Tuesday in October, and runs until the last weekend in March this year, right? We ran until the April 1st. I think our last day of ice was the 2nd, correct, Matt?
Through your worship. Yes, that's correct. We ended up filling the last, the first weekend in April, we ended up having people reach out. We ended up renting it out for tournaments. So we had a tournament on the Saturday, and then the Tuesday night ladies group, they had a tournament scheduled when we had that nice snowstorm back in December. So we rescheduled them for the April 2nd so that there was no lost revenue. But it's usually about a 23-week season, and it's usually about a 2-week startup before that. So it's about anywhere from 25 weeks that we run the arena.
Okay, thank you. And I guess the second question is, Jen, do we have an ice allocation policy? Because I see that the Township of Hamilton just last week brought forward to council that they revamped their ice allocation policy. So basically it talks about what groups get first choice at times and things like that. If you have problems that, you know, everybody wants Saturday at 1 o'clock, who decides, or what kind of policy is decided on who gets, you know, what ice? Do we have anything like that on?
Through you, Mayor Logo, we currently do not have an ice allocation policy. I'd say the what has been happening in previous years is that a lot of our users are just return users, and they keep their preferred ice time. So then we're working around that to fill in other spots. But an ice allocation policy is something that we could implement.
Oh, I'm not saying implement, but maybe it might be something that you could look into, and then it just stops problems in the future. My third question is, so when you say that, and most ice user groups by July are looking at starting to book their ice, when do they book their ice here then? When do they commit to the ice for you?
Through you, Mayor Logo. So again, I assume probably if there was an ice allocation policy, it would also state when they could start like a contract for ice. I will say that I already have contracts drawn up for the 2023-2024 season. It depends when they come to me with their when they reach out to me, I'll book them in. So I don't book them in typically I'm not going to book Grafton Minor Hockey's you know, ice time and take that away. So I look at my last year's schedule and where I had holes, and I fit them in there if it's new. If they're returning users that are looking for their same time and spot, I can draw up the contract now as well. Payment isn't made because they are billed monthly. So payment wouldn't be made until October of this year.
Okay, so that leads to my next question, Mr. Mayor, is so when they do sign the contract, I'm just wondering, because I know it's standard in a lot of rinks, especially where I worked, is when they commit to the ice, they sign for that ice time for the whole year. And unless we close the building, like if they decide not to show up, and I'll use an example as Halloween, a lot of times hockey leagues will say, well, we're not going to show up on Halloween, but that ice is sitting there and we still have staff in there. So we changed our policy years ago. It's got to be at least a dozen years ago. And I'm not sure, Pat, if it's like, sorry, Matt, if it's like that in Hamilton, but once they sign and commit for their ice time, they're committed to that ice time. Like if they don't show up, then they still pay for the ice. Do we have that, or are they just doing sort of like baseball, they don't show up and they only pay for what they played that month, so they're paying after the fact then, right?
Through you, Mayor Logal, they are paying after the fact. We don't have a policy that that states that they have to pay for that day and time regardless of what day it falls on. So we are just following our current cancellation policy, which we do have in place, which is just 24 hours notice. A lot of leagues will tell us ahead of time, right? And they only send us the dates and times they want. So for instance, Grafton Minor Hockey never goes during March break or Christmas break, and a lot of our leagues shut down during Christmas as well. And if we know that ahead of time, it's not like we would have the arena staffed if we don't have anybody booked that day. Or we take that opportunity like we do in March break to fill it with township run programming, so public skates and those types of things.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping is we make the ice users commit. They do the research. So when they come to you and they want an ice permit, they are the ones that in the future say, well, we don't want Halloween because we're not going to play on Halloween. We don't want March break. So they take that out. That way, when you enter it into the system, you know months in advance that you have Halloween night open for anybody that wants to use it. You have Christmas week and things like that. So it allows us to book other groups in there, right? Because I found in the past where I worked is a lot of people would go in there and say, we want all your ice on a Friday from 4 till 8 o'clock on Friday night, every Friday for the next 23 weeks. And then that way they secure their spot, and then they come there, after a few weeks and they say, oh, well, we don't want this Friday. And we don't want next Friday or something. And it's like, well, that's lost revenue for the town. We've committed to you to have that ice and now you're not using it. So I'd like to see if we do change something in the future for an ice allocation policy that these people have to commit in advance. And the only way they would get their money back for that is, if for some reason the town cancels the ice or they don't open the building or something like that, then they get reimbursed for it. But if they decide not to show up, then they still get charged for the ice because we have staff there and we're still running the building and the refrigeration system. Okay, thank you.
I actually have the exact opposite concern of Councillor Booth. Our ability to uphold our side of this contract, to say that we're going to have ice available, everybody wants there to be ice available, but it might be magic thinking. We don't know if this is going to work. We don't know if it's going to work for 2 months or 2 years. We know that we're on our last legs and we're cross our fingers and be hopeful that we get through one more season. But what do we do if it stops working 2 months after we put it in? And what do all of these groups that have signed up with us, where does that leave them?
Go ahead.
I just have a couple of questions as well. Jen, do you have any user groups that aren't paying for ice time?
Through you, Mayor Logal. No. No, we don't have any groups that don't pay for ice time. Like if they book ice time, or I'm not quite sure I understand your question.
No, well, I was thinking of the schools. I know kids our students are coming to use the arena. I just wondered if they are paying for that, or is this something that the town offers free of charge?
Through you, Mayor Logal. So we did have a number of school groups that come in, or local schools anyways, the two in Grafton that are able to walk to the arena, come and use the ice every year. And they do pay for that. So just like they would for a regular class trip, there is a rental fee and they do pay. It is substantially less than prime time hour because it's non-prime time and a special rate for them, but yes, they do pay.
Mayor Lobo. So I kind of tuning into what Councillor O'Neill is saying in one sense. When I read the reports, the groundwater and the got this right. Groundwater issues and the sinking in one area of the arena. Has that ever been addressed to your knowledge?
Go ahead, Matt.
Through you, your worship. I don't believe so. Looking through a lot of documents at the arena, and through word of mouth, through people that help build the facility, it's just keeps slowly sinking for some reason. Whether that is possibly from the brine leak, the numerous brine leaks that they've had, because when it comes out, it is under high pressure, and that could be what is causing the slow dip in the northwest corner. But I don't believe that you could actually get under there to assess it. Yeah, sorry.
To your mayor
To the best of
local,
my knowledge,
Yeah.
Joan too, and I certainly don't know the arena as good as some of the people that Matt's talking about, but to my knowledge, there's never been anything done, at least in the last 20 years, regarding that slow sinking in the northwest corner.
through your mayor local, I think, when I first heard the 2009 report, it was there and nothing was done with it. So I'm wondering, that and so that's one point, but if the repair is done and all these user groups come on and the leak and there's another leak, and like how many leaks are we going to look at when we're in the middle of an ice season? Are the people that are thinking of renting the arena to sign up with their user groups, are they aware that they might not finish the season if we go that route?
Through you, Mayor Logal. With in my knowledge, and from working in arenas for pretty much my whole life, that's something that every user group inevitably would have to worry about. It's not just specifically the Grafton Arena. When I was working in Hamilton Township, we had a compressor go down, and scrambling for parts to fix it, lost the ice, and we had users that were without ice for 2 weeks. Some did manage to find ice elsewhere until the fix was made. And within the county, all the organizations are pretty well knit. So if need be, somebody needed to pick up a couple hours in Colburn, or like right now, we get a lot of Northumberland minor hockey. There is some areas in some facilities where they will move around to accommodate other groups. If, for instance, we did get another brine leak and we had to shut down. But with any arena, you never know what's going to happen or when it's going to happen. So most user groups are aware of that.
I'm sure, Jennifer, you might want to comment on that too. And you're dealing with the community centers. If the water stops in one, people can't, I would think you're in the same boat, because you're gonna have to shut down that facility because there's no fresh water. And has to be some understanding from the user group where they go. Correct?
Yes, through you, Mayor Logo. As as Matt said, you can't predict what's going to happen in the future. So anything could go at any of our facilities at any time, and we would have to, deal with it at that moment and assess there. So if that did happen at the arena, we would, deal with it there, try to find them extra ice elsewhere, work with the groups, that type of thing. I guess what I'd add to that is just that what we've heard from Simcoe, who attended the last council meeting when this was brought up was that the brine leak was successful last time it was done at the arena, and it lasted, I believe, three years before we had this leak that we currently have. And they seem confident that it's going to work this time around as well. And as they mentioned, if not, then there's steps that they would take, right? Including if it was not going to work at all, a full refund of what it costs to do the brine leak repair. Yeah, so I think that's my comment on that, is that if, we don't know what kind of emergencies are around the corner, and we'll deal with them as they arise.
Mike, you're quiet so far.
Yeah, I was just letting everybody speak, but through you, Mayor Logal. I wonder if through this report that we got here, how much of the stuff's already been done? So I know the report's 2016, so there's a lot of that stuff has probably been done, right? So
I'm not sure, are we discussing the whole reports, all the reports now, or are we discussing?
Well, I think I'm just kind of leading up to the fact that why we should fix this,
Okay,
right?
go ahead.
So a lot of this stuff has been done, that it's in there, and I look at the report. And I look at the average users for that one pad arena, and it looks like it's as good or better, excuse me, than a lot of the arenas that are out there. And they're always, and they talk about even the greater Toronto area. So it is one of our highest used facilities. And when we count the users, we don't count all the grandparents and the parents and all that stuff that use that arena. That come there and enjoy that facility and stuff for watching their kids and grandkids play in different sports now with throughout the winter. And the other part that the report talks about is the position where that arena is along the 401 and the importance of it and where it stands as the for the master plan and for the success of the whole county, right? So not just our municipality, but for the whole county where that sits along the 401 corridor, and people coming in, and it's a nice jump off there to come there and use that arena from people from outside. So the arena's in a great location. It sounds, I know the report's 2016, but it's still in good shape. And past years we've let the ice surface go, and no one paid attention to it and tried to get it fixed in the meantime. So here we are holding the end result of it all, and we have to come up with an idea of how to get this thing fixed. So I mean, if we can excuse me, if we can come up with the list of stuff and how much money we spent on it already, and to just kind of walk away from it, to me, would not be a good idea. And I think for the community and the people that uses, and the size of the facility and the amount that use that facility in our community, we need to get this fixed to move on for this year, and look for 2025 to get it fixed.
I'd just like to make one comment on that. Last 2 weeks ago today, there was a ball hockey. They were playing ball hockey in the arena, and I counted the people that were in there for one game, because I know it was only one game, because there was a game before it, and the people told me it was about the same crowd, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less, but it would have been a whole different group coming in. And I did this survey halfway through the third period, knowing that there'd be nobody coming in after to play any more games or nothing like that. And there was 96 people in the arena for that 1 hour for the game. And that's a good crowd.
Yep.
And it was ball hockey. And then last Thursday, I went down to, there was ball hockey again, but I spent 2 times driving around the arena trying to find a parking spot in there. And there was ball hockey going on in there. There was two ball diamonds being used. There was a ladies fitness group that go Tuesdays and Thursday nights. They're outside, I think, aren't they, Matt? But they were, must have been 10 or 12 of them lifting weights and this, that, and the other type stuff. So that area is busy. I don't know if you guys have the opportunity to see all that, but it is busy. The parking lot is full on a typical night. I didn't go down there any particular night. I just went down on a night. And it's like that on Wednesday. Greg goes once in a while on Wednesday and sees that too. Anyways, Mary Catherine, you give a comment?
I actually have three, if that's okay, Mayor Lola.
Sure.
All right, the first is, I think it's very disingenuous for us to sit at this table and pretend that a brine leak isn't predictable. Simcoe did tell us it is going to leak again. What's unpredictable is when, but we know it's going to leak again. So that's my first comment. The second is, I am not comfortable with this ending up being a discussion where the only option is save or not save the arena. I feel like that's going to divide our community. I've said that before. I don't want to end up in a situation where the community feels divided. And when I'm looking at this and I'm looking back to our Parks Master Plan report here, number one, undertake a detailed site assessment and feasibility analysis for the replacement single pad at the existing Haldeman Memorial Arena. The feasibility analysis should include the development of options for functional spaces, programs, and concepts for a new arena as part of a multi-use community facility. And I do appreciate actually your comments about the ball hockey, and I had numerous people approach me at Canada Day saying, can we get more pickleball nets put in there? So there are lots of ways to use this facility. It's wonderful. And I think if we are planning for a new multi-use facility, we're going to see even more users. So that's fabulous. And then I'm pleased to see that our treasurer has joined us, because I'm looking at all these arena reports. What I'm not seeing is reports that came along at the same time saying, well, this is how we can fund it. Here's what the municipality has as funding options. This is what it looks like if we have this facility and operations costs versus, because arenas and pools have operation costs that are very different than any other type of facility. If we're putting our money into our operations costs, then we don't, like if it's a $5 million facility and we don't have $5 million sitting around, are we looking at 1/3 from the municipality, 1/3 from fundraising, 1/3 from grants? How long does it take to get that funding in place? Yeah, I think we've got some really big financial questions sitting in front of us without any financial proposals or options sitting in front of us.
Well, historically, if you do apply for grants and you get them, it's usually, and maybe you correct me if I'm wrong, but it's usually 1/3 the municipality, 1/3 the provincial government, and 1/3 the federal government. So if you wanted to spend $3 million, each one would contribute 3 million. 1 million, pardon me. And if you want to spend 6 million, then each would contribute 2 million. If you want to go 15 million.
Well, and we're not looking at any options less than 6 million here. So then that, you know, where's our 2 million come from? And that's still assuming we're getting grants, which, you know, if I have
Okay.
to guess that at some point, previous councils and previous staff looked at those options and they didn't come through. So
We'll have that.
I can tell you when I first joined, Alma Calderman, there was an opportunity for grant. Unfortunately, the council of the day felt that because the decision on where the arena was going didn't allow me to apply for that funding. So we are always looking for funding, as council is aware, and when that opportunity comes, if council decides that's the avenue they want to go, a multi-purpose building or just fixing the floor or whatever your decision is, then we would be applying for the grant.
I believe the fact of the matter is, if you're going to fix the floor, a lot of the costs that we're looking at was for fixing the floor. And I don't mean the ice itself, I mean taking out the current floor and putting in a new floor. Like that's $600,000 or $700,000. And also have to spend, I believe it was $250,000 for they call it boards. They don't actually call it boards, they have some other word for it, but
Dasher system.
yes. And if you're going to use the facility at all, you're gonna have to put boards in it too. So a lot of that cost even to keep the facility usable, even without ice, is going to be an awful lot of that cost. And then the other, well, there's other choices, I guess, too, just close it up and do nothing with it. But that's probably $1 million too, or more. Just a closure, I would think. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
To you, Mayor Lovell. So can someone explain to me why we have to replace the boards and the glass? Why can't we refit them back in?
Matt can help us with that.
Through you, Mayor Logal, those boards are really not up to current CSA standards. Because they are made out of, I'm pretty sure they're all timber in behind, so there's no give in the boards, which could create more injury if somebody is hit into them. And when you do rip out the floor, the boards are actually sitting on top of your slab. So to be able to piece those out and then to piece them back in, it'd pretty much be too time consuming. And that with the new dasher board and glass netting system, when it was put in, if you wanted electrical outlets put on the outside of the boards so that, say, there is functions in the arena or whatnot, then you got an outlet on the one side of the boards. Or if there's a function and you need to remove the boards, like say maybe make an opening a little bit bigger, you can just unbolt 4 bolts, pull everything out, put it back in. And it's more of a safety issue when they do the new boards. I went through this in Hamilton Township when we got a grant to redo the old facility there. And in talking with Mike Walker, the number here is an estimate. This is a generic quote, which would be more in the range for an NHLA surface, which we don't have. So the cost would be decreased a bit in this, not considerably like $500,000 or that, but it would be a little bit lower just because of the amount of material that is not needed because it is smaller. And then if I just throw a little tidbit in about maybe getting the rink seal, this year in talking with Simcoe, Darcy and I, because our compressors, every year you do general maintenance on your compressors. So one year you do compressor 1, 1 year you do compressor 2. This year compressor 1 was due for an overhaul, so the pistons and everything needed to be checked to make sure. And because we didn't go through, we only went through half a bucket of oil, which is really good for a refrigeration system. Normally you're going through 1 to 2 buckets of oil just through regular season. Darcy and I decided that this year we wouldn't need to do the overhaul on the compressor. So that in turn actually saves us $5,000 plus in costs this year that could potentially go towards the rink seal, which then we're only asking for an extra, say, 7,000 this year instead of the full amount of it.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Onto your Mayor Local, through listening to all the discussions and fixing this brine leak or moving towards the new Great Grafton Community Center. Do I have those words right, Councillor O'Neill? What could this township sustain in the cost of it and in the maintenance of it? Because if we can't afford a big, I just leave it there to see what is our, how could we sustain it financially? and the numbers for that, because that is a big component of this. And I don't know where to go for those. I guess what the next steps is. If we go with this brine leak, we more to repair the brine leak. The next day, we should be looking at what are we going to do with this as far as sustainability? What can we afford? Because different councils have been throwing this around. And here we are we're past the 11th hour to get this done. So we have a lot of stresses on us as a council to get this moved along and find the right answer.
I tend to agree with that, and I think we're dealing with two different things. I
Yep.
think there's an immediate need,
Karen.
which staff has asked for, and there's a long-term need or to be considered. And I think we gotta split the two of them, because I think we should be going ahead and spending the $11,000 to provide our customers with ice for this year and perhaps the next year, and then over the next 6 months to a year, have staff go into a real detailed analysis of what we need, what we could do. And I know that someone has approached us that is willing to provide some financial assistance, a resident, a donation, a major donation, or a very strong dollar and cent donation. And if the council really wants it, or if the staff or people want it, then we should be trying to come up with matching dollars, perhaps, and as well as, and then we can go to the province and ask them for some one third contribution. And I'm pretty sure the province is not willing to provide financial service if there's not money put in by the municipality itself. In fact, I know that they've said that if you can't raise some money of your own to at least be one third, that means to us that you're not interested in. And so you got to put some money in your where your mouth is, I guess. Mike?
To you, Mayor Lobo. So, at this time, I'd like to make a motion that we spend the money for the rink seal.
Okay. Do we have a seconder for that? Seconded by Greg. Further, any discussion? Go ahead.
I'd like to make an amendment to that if I could. I'm not sure if through your Mayor Logo. That immediately plans start for what is in play, what we can put in place, what we can sustain, what we can afford for building. Not next year or a year after, because that'll be 2024, that we start now planning and bringing in, starting public consultation and everything to see what we can afford and what this Great Grafton Community Center should look like.
I think that's.
Yeah, I think one thing, I know it's a Great Grafton Community Center, but it's actually Alan McCulderman Community Center, and I
Thank
think we
you.
should recognize it.
Let's change the name.
Well, okay. Greg?
I know what you're trying to say, Deputy Mayor, but I think I agree with what the mayor said. There's two decisions here. The first one being, are we going to apply this fix to it that buys us some time, which I believe Councillor Ainsworth's motion deals with. Then secondly, I think it's a totally separate thing that then we instruct staff, okay, this is what we're going for now. We know it's short term, whether it buys us a year or two. Now, what are we going to do? And historically, all the councils, and including myself, the mayor, and I believe yourself, Deputy Mayor, were on councils way back in your time too, that just kept deferring this. And the problem with council is that we fall into the 3 Ds. We debate it to death, we defer it, and then we delay it and no decision ever gets made. It's like, oh, debate it, defer, you know, blah, blah, blah. So if we do this quick fix now, which I agree on, then there's no reason why that we cannot, after we make this decision, get staff and that to, let's do some RFPs and everything. And there's no reason why that this rink, if we decide we're going to fix it, can't be fixed next year. After the ice season, when Matt takes his ice out at the end of March, that's almost a year in advance that Simcoe and the board companies and everything would be all ready, and they come in, dig it all out and have it all done so that by the 2025 season, you'd have a brand new floor and boards and everything.
Just reading with some of the stuff that I saw, some of those lead times in this stuff can be pretty long too.
Well, I don't buy what Simcoe says though, that, oh, they're pretty busy. Guess what? You're not the only player out there. So for us to follow what they say, we put out an RFP. If you don't want to bid on it, don't bid on it. I'm sure there's lots of companies that will. So I don't buy that bit about, well, you know, we're pretty busy and everything else. It's like, too bad. We need it now, or whatever decision is made. But I think your decision is a totally different thing. What you want to add is, what are we going to do after this buys us time?
Mary Catherine?
I don't know if we're to the vote yet, but I am not in support of this motion because I do not have confidence we can make it through the coming season.
And what does it, what do you base that on?
Just how old this floor is and how many leaks we've had. And that Simcoe said, we're going to have more leaks. And I feel like we're driving a really, really, really old clunker of a car. And I don't have faith that that clunker is going to get me to the end of my journey.
And if you have a qualified mechanic telling you that he thinks it will, are you going to go with your gut feeling? You're going to go with the person that's the
I'm
expert?
not getting in the car, John. I would not get in this car, to be honest.
Okay, Mike?
Through your Mayor Logo. Well said, Councillor Booth, because I agree with everything that you said. And we should deal with the rink seal right now. And then let's talk about the options that we have for replacing the pad. We have a great gift handed to us with this resident to help us out with this, and I can't thank him enough. So
Him or her? Him or her?
yes,
Thank you.
yeah, and so you know, it's all the reviews and the stuff that's gone on with this arena says that it's the highest activity community center we have. It's in the proper place. It's a valid resource for this municipality, for people moving in here with families. The arena means a lot to them. It's places that, you know, people, they want to know that before they move in here, you know. And so all of those things that were put together, it just makes me feel that we're making the right move. And you can't ignore the historic part of this arena. You know, I would love to see this arena last for another 100 years. Wouldn't that be something? Right? You can put up a new one. You can put up a new one and, oh, well, there's a new one, but you're never going to have that historic arena if something happens to it.
Any further comments? I guess the only thing that I would like to say that I'm going to call for the vote, and then I think right after we should get, what are we going to do for the next 6 months, or what do we have to do to get this thing rolling?
Yep.
Okay.
Would that, through your Mayor Logo, would that be in the way of a motion, or how would you move forward with that?
Yeah, that's fine. Well, I'd like to get this motion done first, though. So I'm going to call a
Yeah.
vote. You move, Mike,
Yes.
to spend the $11,000 to repair the leak with
Rink sale.
rink seal.
So, yes.
Okay,
I believe, through your Mayor Logo, there could be a change in the financial component if our arena manager has said that he has found 7,000, was it, or 5,000?
Through you, Mayor Logal. So the 5,000 that would have been saved would have been through our, general maintenance of the refrigeration system. I don't know what line of the budget that is in, but
You can
There-
talk with Nicole. and see-
there is a savings there that I did not, well, will not be spending this year. And I don't know which line that.
That's not gonna make a difference anyway, Joan, because either way, you're still paying the 11,000 something dollars to Simcoe. What budget line it comes out of makes no difference, right?
Okay. You can talk to Nicole and see if she wants to do that, but I tend to agree with Greg. It's 11,000 is 11,000 bucks, but. So all in favor of,
Oh, Mayor,
yes,
could I ask for a recorded vote, please?
yes, you can. Deputy CAO, pardon me, CAO, deputy clerk and all of that nice
Yeah.
stuff.
Bottle washer, yep.
Yep.
Okay. Counselor O'Neill,
No.
and then Mayor Local,
Yes,
Counselor Ainsworth,
Yes,
Counselor Booth,
Yes,
and Deputy Mayor Stover.
Yes.
Carried 4-1.
thank you. You want to take a 5-minute break?
Before we get into the.
Yes.
Next.
You got a mover and second, please. Moved by Councillor Ainsworth, seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover. All in favor? We'll be back in 5 minutes. That's carried. Okay, we're returning from a short recess and we'll need a mover and a seconder to get back into council. So I get a mover to do that. Moved by Mary Catherine, seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. All in favor? Motion is carried. And I'm not sure exactly how to do this, but there's a couple of things that come up in our previous discussion. First of all, I think it's important that although this isn't a public meeting, but that we just acknowledge that this person has given me the okay to, talk a little bit about it without getting any specific to names and amounts and that type of stuff. So I think we should just make that all clear. I think there's a couple things we need to do. We need to at some point or another, go out to the general public and get see if there are donations that people are willing to make. And there are different ways of doing that. There can, each council member can do it, but I'm not sure if that's the right thing to do. There are people that are experts in doing that. Fundraising. And maybe that's something we should consider. Maybe we should ask staff to investigate and get some feels for that, because I don't know anything about it, really. Mary Catherine?
Interestingly, that was the job I just finished doing and it's there. On one hand, I would look at Grafton and say, yeah, this is a community where there are major donors, but you're correct. It does take professional skills to make that happen. And my experience, and it was a historical building, which you bring up in Peterborough. It's really hard. If you don't have a product that people want, it's really hard to fundraise, which I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. We need to decide what it is that the community wants, what the community needs, and then we'll get to the fundraising.
I think it's got to almost work together. And I tend to agree with you. People won't contribute if they don't know what the overall plan is. But if we're going to shoot to where Greg wants to have something going next April, we're going to have to move awful quickly. So I'm thinking, and there are experts that can do that type of fundraising, local ones that have experience, and I know someone that would be worthwhile considering, but I'll leave that up to staff take a look at, Mary Catherine?
I think, again, we need to be looking at this. What building, what facility do we want in this community 25 years from now? And is this? Yeah, that's really the question in front of us. What do we want in 25 years? What are people who are moving into this community, people who aren't even born yet? How are they going to look at our decision we're making right now? It does matter. This decision is a 25-year decision. It is not how we muddle through the next year or two. It is what kind of a facility are we going to have that serves not just today's needs, but the needs in 10 years and 20 years, and quite likely out to 30 or 40 years, because that's the time frame of a building like that. And this discussion isn't just limited to the ice surface. And I feel like we keep bringing it back to what are we doing about this ice surface, when really it's about a multi-purpose facility. That came forward when we did the Parks Master Plan. It came forward even before that, and it came forward last night at our Parks and Recreation meeting. They're like, we feel like we're going in a circle. We've been talking about these issues for forever, and they weren't talking about the arena. We were talking about communications in there. But you know that we have this document. It clearly does say, if we look at pages 12 to 15, what the community wanted. And I don't think our community wants have changed in that time. We haven't addressed the community wants. And
There's a lot of things we haven't addressed, and council hasn't addressed it in 10 or 15 years. And I'm gonna start picking on things. And so don't take in any particular order, but that report says that unless Vanilla and Vernonville can come up with some way of substantially supporting themselves, then they should be closed. The questions are 3 libraries, I believe. Why do we have 3 libraries in the municipality of 7,000 people? Hamilton Township doesn't have any, although they do contract it out. I believe they have 1, or do they have 2 satellites?
they have 1 satellite and 1 Saturday morning van service.
Oh, is that right? I didn't even know about that. But anyways, that's another thing. Parks, how many parks do we need? You look at the report on boat launches. It's saying you got 1 in the south, you got 6 in the north, probably only need 1, but you're still trying to fiddle. No, I don't want to get swearing here, but I'm emotional on some of that stuff. So there's an awful lot of things to be decided, and I'm glad we got this group together, because I think this group together can make some good decisions. And I'll make another point. I think it'd be great to have a swimming pool here. I don't know, any idea how much that would cost? And as far as a community room, yes, we do need a community room, but you gotta really look and see what's useful and what is dreamy. And to build some great big one, to me, just doesn't make any sense, because people don't go to use them for weddings anymore. Apparently, somebody's telling me the other day that the wedding planner out there in Burnville, what's his name?
Whispering Springs?
Whispering Springs. They have weddings every day of the week. That's what the guy was saying. Yeah, I don't mind it, because it's not really loud, but they're having weddings 7 days a week. So to build a hall for dances and that, people don't use them anymore. But it would be nice to have a room. I don't know, maybe this is the right size, this room here for Grafton, so they can come and use it for library board meetings, and small functions and that type of stuff. I don't know the answers to that, but I'm saying and I think what Mary Catherine is saying, that's what we got to look at. And I don't have a problem being open and looking at it.
Yeah, I definitely think we need to go back to #1 recommendation from there and do what it says in there. I remember being part of that committee and saying, the only thing I know for sure is we're going to get an indoor walking track, because that was the one thing that just kept coming back and back and back. And then anyway, I think that this hasn't moved forward. Yes, council to some degree didn't put any money into it, so it's pretty hard to make a plan if there's no money to spend. So we need to have those numbers from our treasurer of what different options, exactly what you were saying, Deputy Mayor Stover, what is sustainable, what is feasible from a financial point of view. But the reality is, unless we have a person with the skill set to manage this file, you have to have that staff champion who's making this all work. And we probably, it wasn't our council that made this decision, but we've got our recreation in with our roads. And, you know, we have 400 and some kilometers of roads. That's going to be Public Works' primary focus, as it rightly should be. Those are a lot of roads. That's a huge budget. We've got asset management and infrastructure questions coming. I'm wondering if we've even got it organized so that we can do anything. If we don't have somebody staff-wise who is the project manager to sort this out for us, I mean, we can talk and say anything we want, but if there's no person to make what we say happen, we're just talking to hear ourselves talk. And I think that's way too much of what happened with things like this.
Well, I think we do have an acting CAO that can give us some direct information on that. And if she doesn't feel she's got the people here, that's what consultants do. And that maybe what's needed. Go ahead.
Through your mayor logo too, Madam CAO. I think you have a little experience in this field, maybe a lot. What would our next steps look like?
So from listening to the discussion today, the first thought that I'm having is that our management team needs to get together, and we did meet briefly last week with Matt, of course, and come up with a plan, review the Parks Master Plan, review the documents that are before us, and then come back to council and say, okay, here's some suggestions, and then council can give us their direction. I do think it's important to get public input because you want the public to buy into it. And if we're going to do any kind of fundraising, then you need to have the people behind you. And you need to have some kind of a plan, because people aren't going to be fundraising if they don't know what the end goal is. So that's where I would start. I think Councilor O'Neill has a question.
I 100% love everything you say. Can you add a costed plan?
Costed plan. That's Nicole's job.
Well, I think I agree with you. You have to have exactly.
A concept of what we're looking at, and then all through your mayor logo as well, timelines, because this could get put on the back burner. And if we're looking at doing a lot in a year, then we're going to have a pretty tight timeline, and we might not make it. But if we try to do the year,
We can try it in a year, but I think you're biting off an awful lot, because you're gonna need 6 months of fundraising after you get
or
the plan put
planning, the
together.
planning stage is the big thing.
Well, the planning and the
Yeah.
fundraising. I think the two of them go hand in hand. Because there's no sense in building an $8 million, planning for an $8 million one, if we can only afford $4 million. Right? But why did you say you don't like the idea of a pool?
Through you, Mayor. Pools are the qualifications of that and just the upkeep of them. For instance, if somebody has an accident, then your pool shut down for an hour while you're getting back up. Something more in the lines of what Port Hope did, maybe if you did like a splash pad or that, not
Oh,
so
yeah,
much a pool.
Yeah.
And there is tons of options. Like, I know I've been approached by everyone here. And there's lots, like in my opinion, I don't support a new arena. I would like to see us not so much refurbish what we have, but fix the floor. Possibly look into building a community center or a multi-purpose building off more than likely the west side of the facility. And then that way you can update the dressing rooms to more accessible standards. And then that way we'll bring in more users that way as well. But I think the focus, in my opinion, should be on the arena. I know when I was growing up, and even some kids nowadays, they prefer to go to the Grafton arenas that are still the old arenas rather than these prefabricated ones like I worked in Hamilton Township. When I was there, we had the 2 pads, they fundraised for the one. And the majority of the people preferred playing on that smaller ice surface than the new one. So I like the idea of, and hopefully I can be a part of it, but coming up with ideas that we could do. I know reading through reports and all that, the one report did say that the retention of the ice, we should keep the ice pad. And in my opinion, if there's donations or even if it's grant wise, if we put 2 million into the floor and, or even we contribute 1 million to the floor, funding for the other 1 million. And then we look at 2 million that builds a nice building off the west side that can have a gymnasium that has the indoor track that you can walk on, or an actual programming room so that we can run more kids programs, and maybe a nice new council chambers for you guys. Just an option, right? But there's so many ideas out there, and I think from what I've heard, but then again, I'm at the arena, so everybody's gonna say, yes, we want an arena, but I think public input without the swimming pool, please. But I think if we focus, and if the arena happens to get closed because it's not feasible, then maybe we should focus on upgrading the ball diamonds more, because this year I have, every weekend I have provincial or Canadian fast pitch tournaments. But for the south end of the township, that place is the hub. There's activity there every night, whether it's just people walking or community members using the new trail that's there. There's been lots of people on the new fitness equipment. I really like the idea of keeping everything focused in that area.
Rick,
Yeah, through you, Mayor Lobo. So just a couple of comments that, I agree with the things that Matt's are saying with that arena and the its usage. And when I think of putting ripping that down and putting a whole bigger community multi-purpose activity center there. I mean, the demographics of our municipality that we have to put all our eggs in one basket here in Grafton and not think about the rest of our municipality is probably not in the best interest of our residents. So, and I agree with your comment on, the libraries and the community centers and stuff. And there's a lot more places out there that we need to be looking at than the one that's actually getting the most work, the users. So, when you when you take those things into consideration, I think we're doing the right thing. And I think we need to start having some success stories here with this council. We've been here now 8 months, and we need to start having some success stories. And we've given staff a lot of things to do with they've got a lot on their plate there, and to add more with this the Great Grafton Community Center, I think it would just it would just be another thing. It would just an overload for right now. So I'm saying that we need to have let's get some of the stuff off our plate that we got now, and have some success stories, and move on, and deal with all our community centers and all our libraries and all the things that we have right now that we need to be looking at, not just the arena.
good point. I will correct you though. We have some success stories. Lots of them too.
Well, yes, I know, but I mean, we need to have, we've got some things that we need to get off our plate.
Yeah.
Instead of just deferring it, like Greg said, the 3D. Let's start making some decisions and move forward on some things.
Mary Catherine?
I admire both our mayor and deputy mayor saying we have to think of this as an all-Nook Haldeman. But in reality, it's not. The arena does not serve people in the north half. It doesn't serve the people living closer to the Baltimore Arena already who are playing in Baltimore. We have people in Lakeport playing in Colburn. We have anyone north of Fenella going over to Campbellford. So really the catchment area for here is in fact just the Grafton area. And I know that people are traveling from other locations because it's cheaper rent, but they're not our residents.
We have the same issues with the libraries. We have people from Lakeport go to Colburn. We have people from Grafton go to Coburg. We have that, so, you know, you can use that for a lot of different things, I guess is what I'm
Well,
saying. We can't, unless we build, you know, an arena in every place, you can't address that.
But that's, I think, where I was going, Mayor Logal, was our service level then for Grafton would be a very different service level than for the other 2/3 of our municipality. And I think that's something we need to think about. I think the two have to go hand in hand. What are we doing with these other places?
Yeah.
Otherwise,
And I guess my question to you would be too, if you were to build some stuff here, other than in the arena, with the people from
no, that's,
go,
yeah,
you
I
still-
still think we're only servicing the 1/3 of our population that lives in this area. So that's why I think it is appropriate to call it the Great Grafton Community Center, because it's serving Grafton, an area.
well, taxpayers wouldn't necessarily agree with that, but anyways, that's neither here nor there. What do you need? Any more instructions from staff
So if,
or from council?
yeah, if council want to pass a motion to direct staff to take a review of the documents and to bring back a report to council, and the report would include the costing and concept and timelines.
Okay, and
I
what
think
about,
Councillor Nails
fundraising? We're gonna not worry about it yet, or should we start thinking about that?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, to you, Mayor Logan, I was gonna suggest that we pass a motion, maybe start an ad hoc committee for fundraising. Get that on the go.
Okay. Barry Goffin, you have a comment on that?
I just want to clarify with you, CAO, Kemp, if I
Yes.
could. When you're saying you're bringing back this report, are you thinking there's going to be like different options brought? Here's an option that includes the arena, here's an option without the arena, and the costing and the operational costs, and over what time frame are we going to be receiving those kinds of costs? Like over 10-year costs, which is what I would like to see, but
Yes. I would think we do a short term, like 10 years, and then a long term over 20 years.
okay, that would be
Okay,
fabulous.
23.
And capital and operations, I'm assuming
I'm sorry,
both,
pardon?
both capital and operations? Awesome, wonderful.
Mike, you have a comment?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Logan, I just don't wanna, again, debate this thing to death. Like, we need to fix the arena and get the ice surface floor done. I don't wanna lose sight of that.
Okay,
I think as part of the study that staff will do, we'll do like immediate needs. So we just agreed to do the brine leak today. But also as immediate needs, look at the floor, look at if we're going to have a multi-purpose building, look at all the other options that's out there so that we can come back to you. And maybe it's not going to be done all at once, but a phased in approach. So maybe the first phase is the flooring and the boards and the netting and the glass. And then the next phase is building an addition on there for multi-purpose building, and then coming up with what options you could use that multi-purpose building for. And at some point in time, I think you have to have some kind of a concept before you go to the public. Otherwise, they're going to ask you like, what are you talking about? So I think you need to have some kind of a concept, go to the public and say, okay, here's some of the options that we're considering. What do you like? What do you dislike? What are we missing that you think would be important for this community?
could we go to the public in September or October? Or could you be prepared that quickly.
Can I have a meeting with my staff first to see how we can make it happen? And then I can report back to council, maybe on our meeting on July the 18th of where we think we will be and at what time frame. So that would give council an idea.
Because Mike brings up a good point. We've got you pretty well full with STRs and all of that type stuff already, so maybe it is pushing it a little bit, but we have to, you know,
Have
they're gonna be asking
timeframes.
questions, I'm sure. Greg, got you?
I just wanted to say, I agree with what Councillor Ainsworth is saying. Let's not get lost here in the weeds. And it sounds like we're talking about the Great Grafton Community Center and everything else, but we need to discuss, are we keeping the ice or not? Because if we're keeping the ice and we're gonna fix the floor and everything, let's start with that. And then if we're doing anything after that, let's get the ice surface fixed and the boards and everything. Then you can, like Matt's idea, possibly in the future, you can add on to it and things like that. Because if not, we're gonna have meetings, we're gonna debate it, we're gonna go to the public, everything, we're gonna lose another year. Then we're gonna be in the same spot next year to say it's leaking again, or maybe, like you said, Mary Catherine, maybe it'll leak too much and then we'll have to shut it down. And if it shuts down and you lose a lot of your kids go somewhere else, Matt, they're never coming back. So I think we need to get up and get going and say, are we gonna fix the floor or not? And if we're gonna do it, then let's get going and fix it. And if we have to fundraise for the floor, and like you said, Mayor, we have somebody that wants to come forward, is willing to donate some money, then let's build on that. The Great Grafton Community Center is part 2. In my mind.
Go ahead.
I think if we don't have a plan, we're gonna be piecemealing it out, so I can't support that. We have to have a concept, we have to have a plan going forward, and that is what I would support.
Mike,
Through you, Mayor Logo.
can I, just before?
Yes.
You're both saying the same thing.
Yeah, we are.
You're both saying the same thing. He's got a plan that he wants to see in 5 years. You've got one that's 5 and 10, 15. Aren't
But
you
if
saying
it's
something?
all through your mayor local, if it's a concept that everybody can get on board with. If we show up with saying, oh, we're gonna fix the floor this year, and then, oh yeah, let's figure out what else we're gonna do. We have to have a concept and we have to stay to the plan. We can't piecemeal it because who knows
Well,
how much, where we are financially by
Yeah.
then.
What, Pat, in your experience, if you have a plan for
Concept.
fundraising, pardon me, for grant money, does it have to go so long or, well, will they let, okay, phase 1 is over the next year or 2 years. Then
Oh.
phase 2 and start in 5 years. Can you
Yeah, so
put
some,
out funds
they,
for all that?
they do have, in the grant applications, they do have like start dates and they have end dates. So some of them are over 2 or 3 years, some of them are only a year. It all depends on the type of funding that you go for.
So it could be 3 or 4 years even.
3 usually is max.
Okay, so we'd have to get something done quickly and then start other stuff in 3 years, which would be good, wouldn't it? Mike?
Through you, Mayor Logo, like, to me, I gotta look at reality, and I would like, for the report to come back with some reality in it, what we can actually afford. You know, I mean, we can have these wishes that we want to do this, but what can our tax base afford? And what services do we have to cut? You know, so when I look at that, I mean, like, you know, we just took out a debenture for the Public Works building. You know, the interest on that is 2.5 million or something for that. So you know, add all that together. Like, you know, we have to start streamlining, and I go back to the lean management thing. We have to start streamlining and maybe running this municipality like a business instead of, you know, oh, don't worry about it, we'll get $7.5 million next year. You know, the concept of the thinking of how we spend that money and how we start getting our heads above water kind of thing, and looking at it as instead of a wish list. Like, let's look at it reality when it comes to what we can afford.
And that's where it gets tricky, I think, because we don't know how much we can fundraise. And we don't know how much to, and once you decide that, then you can say, okay, well, if the province is gonna do this, the feds are gonna do that,
No,
then,
Nope.
then it's not so difficult, but until you know what you're gonna get, it's pretty hard to project all of that type of stuff. Mary Catherine.
I completely concur with you, Counselor Ainsworth. We have to have realistic financial plans here. If we put the money into the ice, then there is no money for any of the other things, whether it's updating here, dealing with accessibility at the library, in an undersized library, actually, in Grafton. It doesn't give us money to do any parks. It doesn't, I mean, it's putting all the eggs in that one basket. Our CAO has said we're going to get some costed plans. I think we need those numbers sitting in front of us, and we need to say, if we're talking about $5 million, and I don't think any of these plans over the next 10 years can be anywhere less than 5 million, we're probably talking closer to 10 million. And then there's operations costs. So there's the upfront capital cost, there's the operations cost, and which plan is going to give the best service to the community? And that's, you know, ultimately what we have to look at. How does our money give the best service to the community? And I mean, I can hear how much you love the arena, but if we put all our money into that old arena and we update the old arena, that's what we've got. We've got an updated old arena. There's not going to be money for any of the other wants and needs. And is 25 years from now, looking back, is that what people want us to do? I'm not reading those reports and seeing that's what they want.
I thought that they did want that. I thought they wanted to build an arena. I thought they wanted to get close those two facilities, get rid of a couple arenas, pardon me, a couple of libraries, et cetera. And, you know, council made one mistake, in my opinion. When they built the new library in Centerton, they should have been closing one along with it. And that was a mistake. Because once you got it and you get it there, it's hard to take them away. But if you give them something new at the same time, it's pretty good. And I think that was a mistake the council made, in my opinion. What, Greg?
I agree with what Councillor Ainsworth is saying, and I think there's a couple of things. We got a lot more debentures. We're still paying for the fire hall up in Roseneath, which is around hanging around our neck too, plus now the works yard. I see it pretty simple in black and white, not as convoluted as you do, Mary Catherine. As I see it is, if we fix the arena floor, if it costs us the 2 million or whatever, even in all those reports, like Matt said, it said, keep the arena. So let's fix the floor, the arena's there. Anything after that is a thing that, okay, can we fundraise for? There's no way that you're putting any additions on or anything like that. That's not going to cost you at least $2, $3, $5 million. Community centers that are built now, like up in Campbellford and all that, was like $22 million or something like that. It skyrockets, right? That definitely we can't afford. And then there's the operations costs. I can tell you right now off the top of my head, the CEO doesn't even have to look it up. If you fix the arena, the operation costs are going to be exactly the same as they were this year. Because with the ice fixed, we know that what it costs for an operator and what it costs to run the rinks. If you start adding additions on and everything like that, now you have to have people staff the building. It has to be open. And that's the issues that I hear all the time about the library. Oh, you have the libraries, but they're not open when I want it. And it's like, because the operational costs are huge. Building it, you get, you pay your 2 million or whatever, but to run it, it's costs you thousands of dollars to have employees in there for when people want to come and use it, right? So to me, it's getting more simpler. The more I think about it, I say, let's fix the arena floor, and the arena floor is running and we have the arena. And if we want to add something onto it later or something like that, to me, that's something that you can cost out to say, what's it going to cost and how much is it going to cost for operations?
I think the instructions are fairly clear, aren't they?
I need a motion.
There's not. Well, there's two different things we need to cost. Either short term, 1 to 3 years, and then what we can do later. And whether we can afford it or not.
I think Pat kind of, through your mayor local, Pat has the direction, I believe.
she does. So, Mike, you got. the
Through you,
motion?
Mayor Lobo, just one more question from Matt. When they redo the surface, are we putting the insulation underneath the cement this time, Matt? that part of it?
Through you, your worship, yes, so everything. Not saying that they did it wrong when they built the arena, but it would be up to standard so that there would be no possibility of it sinking. And it'd be just the same as if we didn't have ice, you'd still have to redo the floor. The cost would be a little bit cheaper, but all the same stuff that's in this quote would, with the exception of the header trench and the brine lines, you'd save on that, but it'd still need to be done. So everything would be done subgrade material, you're in top notch.
Yeah, it would, and if they insulated the ground before they put the cement down, it'd be, the operating cost might not be as bad for freezing. Electrical, I guess.
My thing with all the old arenas run better than new arenas.
Mhm.
Cost effectively wise, when I was in Hamilton Township, our old arena ran better than the new one that we had just built. Efficiency wise with, in regards to keeping ice, how the ice felt when you were skating on it. So I believe if the floor was replaced, top notch, it would last the 35 years that an arena floor is supposed to last.
Right on, thanks.
Mary Catherine?
I'd like to make a motion that we direct our CAO to investigate. Did you have that written down already, CAO clerk? Or Cap, I should say.
So I have that I'm to look at the concept, a timeline, costing, capital, operating cost, short-term and long-term.
And can you bring us at least options involving replacing the ice, alternate use of that space and a new community center? Please?
And that's all part of the phases.
Well, I think we have to say, you know, I just don't see how we're talking, any of these plans is $6 million. I just don't see how they're different, but anyway, the operations cost and the usage may well be different depending on what we do. Sorry, could we add projected usage of the spaces? Really make it hard work for our staff here.
Moved, seconder. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, Matt, thank you very much. Appreciate your help and your assistance. Of course, this is confidential and you know that.
This is an open meeting.
Oh, yeah, this is.
Yeah. Next one's closed.
The next one's.
Yeah, there is, but this is, you're not part of the.
It's an open meeting.
So are we closing out and then he goes, or does he?
I've got to read
Yeah.
the. I'm gonna get, you know. Okay, next we have a closed meeting coming up, and I'll read the motion and then we'll go into close. So you're done, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. So I'll read the motion. Motion to recess to closed session that the council of the Township of Allen will be recessing to a closed section under section 239(2) of the Municipal Act as amended to consider labor relations or employee negotiations relative to initiative for the chief administrative officer position, with the acting CAO clerk and the deputy clerk remaining in attendance at 11:15 a.m. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councilor Ainsworth. All in favor? Motion is carried. And then we'll need quorum. Okay, we're gonna come out of closed and go into regular session, so I'll read the motion. Be it resolved that the council of the Township of Allen Alderman reconvene to the special council session at 12:16 PM. Mover and seconder, moved by Councillor Booth, seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. Pardon me, Councillor O'Neill, all in favor? Motion is carried. Approval of confirming the bylaw 75, 2023, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the special council session held on Tuesday, June 27th, 2023. Be it resolved that bylaw 75, 2023, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the special session of council held on Tuesday, June the 27th, 2023, be read and deemed passed this 27th day of June 2023. Did I get a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover and seconded by Councillor Booth. All in favor? Motion's carried. Adjournment, be it resolved that the special session of council of Tuesday, June 27th, 2023, be adjourned at 12:18 PM. Moved by Councillor Ainsworth. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, everyone. Have a good afternoon, and we'll see you at 6 PM.
PM.